it's Neenah. Thanks for joining me today. I'm very honored to be part of the Altenew release blog hop for September, and I wanted to share a card with you that features a technique that I'm calling pattern stamping. This is the card that I will be showing you in this video. It features some really beautiful patterns using the new MAJESTIC Mistletoe stamp set from Altenew. I use that stamp set as a layering set because that is what that set is all about, and Altenew is famous for those. I used many of the Altenew inks to help me get that really cool stamp layering effect, and you can see the detail that these images provide when you create a really beautiful mistletoe pattern from this stamp set. So I have the tutorial on this card following this little intro here. But before I get started on the card, I wanted to share also too that I made a few other cards using some of the new products from Altenew. You can see there's quite a few different things that you can do with a lot of these new products, and they are so much fun. So if you would like to see any of these cards, I encourage you to head either over to my blog and see the still pictures, but you can also head on over to the other video that I have as part of this Altenew release that features close-up looks at all of these cards. So in the video, I share a close-up look at some of the products that I have from the new release. Not everything, but I do have some of the products. And then I also share some inspiration on how you can use those products, namely these cards. So I hope you will continue watching to see how I created this card, as well as then check out the other video, which I have linked either at the end of this video, over at my blog, or down in the video description. Also remember that this is part of a blog hop celebrating the new Altenew release. So if you'd like to maybe see some more projects featuring the new Altenew release or win some prizes, again, head on over to my blog to get details on that. So let's go get started in creating some fun pattern stamping cards using the new Altenew release. Okay, so I'm starting off by taking some Altenew inks. I've got Frayed Leaf, Olive, and Evergreen. And I'm going to go ahead and start stamping these mistletoes onto a piece of white cardstock. Now I started off with the lightest ink and the largest image first. So this is the base layer. Now you could reverse this and of course stamp the base layer with the darkest color, but I decided I wanted to use the lighter color first. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the second layer of that stamp set, and I'm going to line this up with the other image that we already have stamped down. Now, if you look on the back of the packaging of this stamp set, this does have a guide for how these images work. So I was following this guide as I was stamping these images down. Now I'm going to go ahead and take the olive ink and ink up this stamp, and I'll stamp this down right over top of the image that we've already stamped down the first time with the frayed leaf. The Holtz and Tonic stamping platform makes this card so easy to make because you can easily restamp if you mess up, or you can kind of really just play around with the placement of everything before committing. I really like that about stamping platforms. Both the Misty and the Tonic stamping platform are so invaluable. So now I'm going to line up that third layer and stamp this in the Evergreen ink. This one has some really beautiful stippling detail on it that I absolutely love. So I'll go ahead and stamp this down now on top of that lighter ink. And these look pretty stark at first, but once they dry, they won't be quite as bold. They're still going to have that nice contrast and the bold appearance, but as they dry, they're not going to be quite as intense as what they look like right now. Now there's also some berry images that you can stamp with the mistletoe. I at first was thinking I was only going to stamp some of the mistletoe with the berries, but in the end I decided to stamp all of them with berries. Now for the berries, I stamped the bottom layer in some ruby red Altenew ink. First I thought I was going to do pink, but then I changed my mind and went with the traditional red. After I stamped that layer, I'm taking the second layer, and this is kind of like the shadow of the berries, and I'm going to stamp this down in some Schoolhouse red ink from Simon Says Stamp. I wanted something just a little bit darker than the ruby red. So I'm inking up that shadow color, and I'm going to stamp this down right over top of where the berries were placed. And you can see that they really create some nice dimension by stamping that shadow on top of the berries. That gives them a little bit of extra interest. Here's where I decided to also add in just a few more berries in some random places. And I'm just using one of the little dot images on the tip of that stamp, and I'll just stamp those randomly around the background. I also stamped some of the sentiments from that same MAJESTIC Mistletoe set. I started off by stamping the and sign, and I'm going to stamp that in the Barely Beige ink 3 times to make sure that I get a nice dark impression, because I don't want it to be too light, but I also don't want it to be too dark. So this Barely Beige ink, by stamping it just a few times, you can kind of control how dark or light it ends up showing up. For the rest of the sentiment, it's going to read merry and bright. So I'm stamping merry and also the word bright in some Simon Says Stamp clear embossing ink. This is so that way I can use then some embossing powder to put over top of these sentiments to give them an embossed and dimensional feel. Now I also really wanted to do something with some sparkle, because Christmas always has sparkle involved into it. So I decided to bring out the Tonic Studios Black Shimmer embossing powder, which is so gorgeous. When this dries, it looks absolutely amazing. It's like glitter, and I just love using this embossing powder. So I embossed those sentiments with that powder, and here I took a piece of red Schoolhouse cardstock from Simon Says Stamp, and I die cut a circle die twice. First I die cut it along the bottom, then shifted it up just a tiny bit, and die cut it again, and that creates this little arc banner. And with that arc banner, I'm going to then take my sentiment, which is from the Halftone Holiday stamp set from Altenew, also a new stamp set. I'm going to turn this into an arc to stamp on top of that. So I just took an acrylic block, maneuvered my stamp to how I want it to be placed on the arc, and then picked up the back side with another clear block, and that makes sure that that sentiment stays in a nice arced appearance. So I stamped that with clear ink and heat embossed it so that way I could turn this into a little banner to go over top of the words merry and bright. I'm putting the merry and bright sentiment onto my card using foam tape, and then the banner is just going to get adhered down with some liquid glue. You'll also notice that I die cut a stitched edge around this piece of paper just to give the pattern a little bit more interest. To finish off the card, I took Nuvo drops in the jewel color. This is a beautiful jewel red tone, and it's basically a translucent tint of red. And I'm putting this over top of every drop on my card, and look at the dimension that you get once this dries. It is gorgeous. And I really love how it makes that intense red color just really shine and pop. Those berries are just popping right off of that card. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video and got some inspiration on using some of the new Altenew products. I also did a bunch of other pattern stamping using some of the new stamps and dies from the new release. So for this card, you can see I did some beautiful background stamping with the Layered Laurel stamp set. Again, with the Layered Laurel set, I did another card in a more tropical tone and featured that with some more traditional greens. Finally, I also used the Halftone Holiday stamp set and stamped a bunch of radiating patterns onto my background to create a really cool pattern paper kind of effect. So there's a lot of things that you can do with the new stamps and dies from Altenew, and I encourage you to head on over to my blog and YouTube channel to see another video that I created featuring many of the new products that Altenew has released and close-up looks at all of these cards. Again, remember that this is part of a blog hop, so head on over to my blog to get the information on that. And I appreciate you so much for stopping by and spending some time with me and watching this video. If you enjoyed, here are 2 more that you might like featuring some fun Altenew products. Thanks again for stopping by and spending some time with me. I will see you again very soon with another video. Bye!